Alright, and welcome back to another video, and today we're talking about why you can't grow your chesticles. That's right. And it's probably due to a few things, as always. It's never just one thing. There's always multiple factors, multiple issues. But the biggest key to the fact that you can't grow your chest, or you're not getting the development or the lack thereof, is that you're not using the right technique, the right skill set, and perhaps your training protocols are not quite where they need to be to actually increase the size of your chest. So the first thing we need to look at when we train the chest is obviously the skill acquisition, or the technique itself, and how to move through the appropriate ranges of motion, how to actually activate the chest, using the muscles around it as well, so you can create a safer, stronger movement that you can progressively overload, so you can lift more in over time. You can do it safely, okay? And then you can continue to actually build the volume, you can actually build the intensity, the weight on the bar, etc., and actually cause adaptation, cause growth in the chest. So when people think of chest, they think of bench press, right? The king of the chest movements. Now, although the bench press is one of the best exercises you can do to build your chest, I would argue that the flat dumbbells are probably just as good, if not better. However, I'm not telling you that that's the secret and that's the thing you need to be doing. I bench 2 to 3 times a week. I love it. It's a great movement. It's not about you doing the same, but it has some crossovers, and the flat dumbbell bench press allows you, if you look at chest activation alone, to get a deeper and a slightly fuller range of motion. And the fact that you've got a unilateral, or using 2 implements if you like, okay, and then bilaterally actually pressing them, there's argument there that you would actually have more muscle activation in the chest, and again, using a more fuller range of motion, you probably get a little bit more chest growth. However, the bench press works multiple muscle groups. It's a big compound lift. It's one of the main powerlifting movements, and is phenomenal to develop a great chest too. And of course, you probably enjoy doing it. Male or female alike, it's good for all. So when we look at this movement, a lot of the common mistakes we see, and the biggest mistake that I made myself for years, and no one ever pointed this out, was that I was effectively doing a close grip bench press. I was using most of the time my anterior in front of my shoulders. Sure, I was using a bit of my chest, and I was using a lot of triceps, and I had really good shoulder and tricep development compared to my chest development. And genetics aside, it was always lagging. I could never really feel it when I was doing the bench press or the movement. And I would often get, a little bit like sore in the shoulders, or I'd feel like the anterior delts were really working harder than they needed to. The dumbbell flat chest press, yes, but again, I was in the wrong position. I was doing a few other bits and pieces. So I achieved growth, but I was really limiting my potential with my chest because I didn't have the right movement pattern. I didn't have the right skill or technique, if you will. So the close grip bench is one of the most common mistakes. Now, again, it's a great movement, and it's better to do the close grip bench if you're trying to build more of your triceps, okay, or you want a variation on the bench press, and you can play around with going wider and closer. But generally, the widest you can go, especially if you're competing in powerlifting, is the 2 rings on the bar, which is around 83 centimeters. And generally, the strongest people in the world are lifting between that range. It's a good idea to be somewhere in the ballpark, although discrepancies for different biomechanics for all individual will change that. So it's not about going as wide as you can either, because there is a point where you're just trying to make the movement pattern as easy as possible, then you're not actually getting a full range of motion, and you're neglecting the very thing you're trying to achieve, which is to activate the chest. The second biggest mistake is not having the shoulder blades in a retracted position. So what I mean by that is, if we're trying to retract the shoulder blades, we're trying to get them back and down, and we're getting our shoulder blades in a safe and optimal position so that we can activate more of the chest, we can create a better movement pattern, okay, and we can move through this range of motion more effectively. A lot of the time, the shoulders are coming forward, so that's protraction. That can cause a lot of pain in the shoulders, and also in the traps and neck area too, and put yourself in a really awkward position on the bench, to the point where you're almost too flat. And again, you'll see a lot of this with beginner athletes, and they'll be on the bench and their chest is almost sank. It's almost like concave. They've not got that ability, or they've not been taught to retract their shoulder blades, or as we can call it sometimes in powerlifting, to pack the shoulder blades into place, to create, again, a more stable and strong position. The third mistake is probably a combination. Again, this is no particular order. is probably the tempo. A lot of people sort of bounce the bar off their chest, or they're trying to go too fast, etc. And this ties into the fourth point, which would be too much weight on the bar, trying to move too much weight ineffectively over time, and they're just using so much, you know, triceps and momentum and bounce and shoulders that they're not really getting the most out of the movement. You're not teaching the body the skill. Strength is a skill, therefore you're not going to be able to bench press more over time, or whatever the movement is. If you want to progress over time, you've got to nail the technique. The technique has to be at a certain level of efficiency for the body to learn that movement pattern. Therefore, you can become more skilled in it and progress over time. Strength is a skill, okay? It's how well you can move through point A, point B in a given movement pattern, etc. So those things there, the tempo and the weight are probably going hand in hand with what we see in the bench world, and even just in the gym in general. People throwing weights around, and you know, you're just using momentum. You're not really activating the muscle groups, etc. So you don't have to go super slow, but a tempo that is controlled. As long as you are controlling the weight, that is the main takeaway, without getting into the nitty gritty. Aside from that, it would be not using leg drive. So I think point number 5 would be the lack thereof of the leg support. So again, it's not necessary, but if we're looking at the base of support, so if we think like of a pyramid, right? A pyramid's got a really, really solid base, okay? And it obviously goes up as such. Imagine if that was flipped the other way. It would fall over, right? It just wouldn't work. So we want a really good foundation. With anything that's a strong structure, the foundation is key. A building, a house, etc. So if we can plant our legs in the correct positioning, okay, we're going to be able to use that leg drive. We're going to be able to push against the floor, to push against the opposing force, being the barbell, and we're going to be able to drive and create more force against, okay, the resistance, and therefore that's going to optimize it as well. Some other key points are then learning to breathe properly, so creating intra-abdominal pressure. So inhaling, swallowing that oxygen down, okay? So you're compressing within the diaphragm and you're holding on to that breath, not breathing during the movement, because if you're breathing during the movement, you're weak, you're relaxed, you're soft. Where you want to create tension, you want to create stability, you want to be hard, okay? And therefore that pressure you can use to push against. Look at any powerlifter completing a bench press or any big movement, you'll see them reset their breath generally at the top of the movements. The bench press, we generally don't want to do that, but again, for the most part, you're not a powerlifter, just learn to create and learn to breathe properly. And then if you really want to take it to the next level, you can learn specifically how to breathe and when to breathe, because generally you don't actually want to do it during the bench press. You want to do it just before you unrack it, and then breathe again when you rack. You can only inhale, but that is probably a video for another time for those of you who just love lifting heavy weights and powerlifting specific. I would also say that usually the bench position and the height of the barbell, the unrack, you'll notice in these videos I'm benching in a power rack, if you like, or a multiple section power rack, for the reason that I can customize the height that I can unrack it. A lot of conventional bench presses in the gym, the standalone bench presses, unless it's a comp spec bench press, you can't actually adjust that. There's usually just 2 or 3 hooks. So you're either going to be perfect for it, or it's going to be a little bit out. If you go to a power rack or you have a comp spec bench, you can adjust it between smaller variances. Therefore, you can find a height that is better to unrack, so you can actually keep your shoulder blades in that packed position, okay? And it's going to be a lot safer as well if you do need, to drop the bar and have the safeties there, etc. And you can put yourself in a better position. It's the same with the bench. You generally want to use a flat bench, not one of the incline broken benches. Ideally, you want a nice flat bench with no break, no adjustable bench in it. But again, you can make the best of what you've got. The principle remains. And aside from that, they're my biggest or the biggest common mistakes that I see that I've made myself. And it's not one thing, it's these multiple things. And if you just tick the boxes and go and brush up on them and learn the skills, you will find that you will improve your bench press, you'll improve your chest, your pressing movements, your pushing movements in general, and therefore with adequate nutrition and rest, you will grow your chest. The last one, before I forget, is actually probably grip too. I noticed a lot of people, they try and go the thumbless grip. Yeah, you can do that. Wouldn't recommend it, guys. We've evolved. If you try and grab hold of something and try it without the thumb versus the thumb, you're a lot stronger with the thumb. Common sense. If you try to grab and grip and break, okay, you can create more tension. Therefore, you can drive and use more energy. Make sure that you're putting it in the meaty part of the hand. A lot of people, they move around a lot, okay, when they're lifting, and they just sort of fuck around a little bit. Again, you might not be aware of it. Video yourself, get a good training partner. When you are going for the lift, you really want to commit to that, and you want to be stable and you want to be focused. Okay, you don't have to get too revved up, but you want to be present. You want to be thinking about what you're doing. You don't want to be moving around. If you have to readjust, place the weight down, readjust, start again. There's no competition. You're in complete control in the gym. That's one of the most beautiful things about being in the gym environment, is that it is one of the safest environments, contrary to popular belief, because you can control everything, okay? The temperature, for the most part, you control the music you're listening to, how much you warm up, how much weight's on the bar, how safe it is. So there's lots of things we can control, so there's never really any excuse to getting injured, especially if we're taking a little bit more of an intelligent approach. So there it is, guys, in no particular order. There are the main reasons why, or some of the main reasons why you are not growing your chest, and why I did not grow my chest for the longest time. Again, little things, and not many people are really teaching these. They're talking about them, but they're not really like showing people. So we can use that and look at some of the things that are in these videos that you've seen why I've been talking. You can take a visual as well, like keeping the joints stacked, and I've probably left a few little bits and pieces out. But shameless plug, if you want all these specifics succinctly, professionally edited, cut, go to my academy. Link is on the screen right now. It's the Netflix of fitness. I will teach you all the fundamentals of training and nutrition alongside some of the best professionals in the world as well, to back that up and support that knowledge, so you can start to implement that into your own lifestyle from the comfort of anywhere in the world for literally $10 a week. God, it's goddamn near free. Now, we ain't the Hodge twins. It's not goddamn near free, but it's cheap. All jokes aside, the reason why I've done that is because when I was younger, I couldn't have afforded a professional coach or someone that was, fairly competent. So therefore, having the ability to have all this free content on YouTube, the podcast, the Instagram, but then having that small paid feature to get even higher quality content, put it into a way which is in order, so you can kind of start to create your own programming. You can start to learn these movement patterns. You can learn about nutrition, recipes, etc. All of these fundamentals which create the big picture, because again, there's no magic bullet or silver bullet and one remedy. And for all these motherfuckers on YouTube, excuse my language, that are coming up like, these 4 foods, man, that you can't eat. Wankers. Don't listen to them. They're full of shit, all right? Because it's all a marketing scam. If it's too good to be true, it usually is. Guys, thank you for watching as always. I appreciate your support. Channel is growing slowly but surely, but in a qualitative manner. If you like the video, I've got to say it, like the video, comment if you've got a question, a query, a concern, or there's something that you want to share that you can contribute to positively. Of course, subscribe for weekly videos, and until next time, I'll see you next week, and stay fearless.